again, very welcome and warmly welcome to all of you to this webinar on the UNESCO OER recommendations. My name is Ebba Ossiannilsson and I am the chair of the ICDE OER Advocacy Committee who is hosting this webinar. And I have some of my colleagues in the committee here, and we are all ICDE ambassadors for the global advocacy of OER. We are doing this workshop in collaboration with the ICDE OER Chairs. And we have a very prominent panel for our webinar. Some practical things before we went through. I would like all of you to write your name and your country in the chat. We have a poll with some questions which we would like you to answer. We are recording this meeting, and afterwards it will be sent out to you. And we have done a lot of blog posts from our advocacy committee, and there will be another one from this webinar as well. I did one before the webinar, and another will be one after the webinar. In my slides, which I show, I have put the links, so you can use the links if you like to get more information. We have a button with question and answers in the bottom. And, please, if you have questions and answers, write your questions there, and we will try to follow up. The panel will be very brief introduction from each of the prominent panelists, and we will try to also, at least in the second round, to answer your questions. Oh. So the program is, I have a short introduction on the summary of the forthcoming UNESCO OER recommendation. And as I said, my name is Ebba Ossiannilsson. I'm chairing this advocacy committee, and I am based in Sweden. We have after me Svetlana Knyazeva. She is from the UNESCO Institute of Technologies in Education in Moscow. And she has been in charge of a recent global study on OER from UNESCO and the challenges and impact of OER. Svetlana has some 20 minutes to present that report. It is just out, so it is very hot topic. Then we have a short round with the comments on the forthcoming UNESCO OER recommendations from the ICDE OER Advocacy Committee. And just to be very strict and in the sharp, I would like to ask the advocates to present in alphabetic order. So then we have a short round again with the ICDE OER Chairs, and that is the same. You will be asked to present in some 4 minutes for each of you, also in alphabetic order. And then we have time for dialogue and questions with all of you who will take part in this webinar. Seems like changing slides takes some time. So first of all, very short presentation about ICDE. For those of you who maybe are not familiar with ICDE, but I think most of you are. ICDE and its members share the same mission and values, bringing accessible quality education to all through online, open and distance education. And the ICDE community focuses on advocacy and research in a range of areas that all support and realizing this vision. The OER Advocacy Committee, we work to increase global recognition of OER and to provide policy support for the uptake, use and reuse of OER. We have a webpage at ICDE's webpage. You can look for more information. We have also a LinkedIn profile which we use for communication. And here you can see that we are promoting the webinar we have for today. So here is the updated information, and please feel welcome to come and visit on that page now and then. The ICDE shares in open education resources. They are a network that where it's possible, works in collaboration with UNESCO and existing UNESCO shares in OER. Some of the panelists who are here today, they visit also took part in the UNESCO meeting in Paris in the end of May. So we will hear very fresh information from them. First of all, during this meeting in Paris, first I had a slide with maybe corner years. In 2002, OER was coined at UNESCO's Forum on the Impact of Opencourseware for Higher Education in Developing Countries. So we have some almost 20 years working with OER. Then in 2012, we got the Paris Declaration on OER. In 2017, there was the second OER conference in Ljubljana, and there was a declaration coming out from that, and also a ministerial statement. And the main topic was about going from awareness to action. As I said, we have worked with OER almost 20 years, and still it is very much about awareness raising. But we have to change on that. And now we have the new forthcoming UNESCO recommendations, which will be published in 2019 in November. And there was a pre-meeting in late May preparing for this. So at that meeting, they also agreed on the new definition of OER, which is this one. I think you can read for yourself. It was also agreed about a new definition on open license. And here again, I think you can read for yourself. So the recommendations which are out now, they build on of the SDG, especially number 4, and also from the Ljubljana conference and the statement from that. And they are in mainly 5 points. Build the capacity of stakeholders to find, reuse, recreate, and share OER. Develop supportive policy. Ensure inclusive and equitable access to quality in OER. Nurture the creation of sustainable models for OER. And finally, to facilitate the use of OER. So this is the short background, and the reason why we have this webinar to reflect on the recommendations. So with that, I will give the floor to Svetlana Knyazeva to report on the study from UNESCO Institute for Information Technologies in Education on the study on OER from UNESCO, understanding the impact of OER, the impact and the challenges. So Svetlana, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ebba. So good afternoon and good morning. Hi, everybody. So I would like to share the screen, this one. And can you still see me? I'm going to speak about this book recently published by our institute. I represent UNESCO Institute for Information Technologies in Education. This is the only UNESCO institute working in the field of ICT in education, and we are based in Moscow. Recently, well, actually, almost a year ago, we initiated this project, and I'm glad to see some participants here, those who contributed to this study. This is Jane, Francis, Rory, Bud Bolt. I could see that Maria Soledad was on the list of participants. So, well, nice to see you. And now I would like to present some results of this study that, well, actually are summarized in this publication. So, the situation in open educational resources in 15 countries. You can see them on the list, and they represent all UNESCO. I can see some noise. Can you see me well? Can you hear me well? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, well, these 15 countries are on the screen, and they represent all 5 UNESCO regions. And the situation in open educational resources was analyzed from several perspectives. These are policy commitments to OER, OER adoption, OER financing and sustainability, diversity and inclusion, research on educational impact and effectiveness. Just very rapidly, I'll go through all countries and in alphabetic order. So the first is Australia, and initially OER by individual academics, librarians, and institutions. And funding was provided through government research grants and by individual institutions. In 2012, Australian universities began to deliver MOOCs. There are no central government requirements for educational resources produced with public funding to be openly licensed, but the government and educational authorities recognize the importance of OER and CC licenses. Currently, some universities and institutions are actively investigating the viability of providing commercial services associated with OER, such as micro-credentials, badging, and assessment services. Brazil, so the first open content initiative started in late 1990s and early 2000s. Brazil has made great advances in the past decade and in establishing legislative basis for OER, and recently a platform was launched with clear policies on copyright and reuse of resources. Actually, this is largely due to the support of OER Brazil community and the advocacy work of OER.br, coordinated by the Educa Digital Institute with funding from the national, from the Open Society Foundation. There is currently Brazil implements national textbook plan. Canada, since the adoption of the Paris Declaration in 2012, the Council of Ministers supported OER. The ministers were also influenced by the US government's support for opening access to publicly funded publications. The Commonwealth of Learning also played an important role in supporting OER. Alberta, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan signed the MOU on OER to declare the wish to collaborate on the development of common OER. And well, the latest news, they are not in the book, but recently in April 2019, At the Cascadia Open Education Summit, the government of the province announced 3.26 million in funding for open educational resources, including the development of no-cost open access textbook. Chile. The concept of OER or openness has not penetrated the stakeholders or decision makers at this institutional level. In 2015, the National Commission of Scientific and Technological Research launched an open data portal that publishes databases related to the results of the projects of grants aimed at higher education institutions. Still, institutions are unwilling to share their educational and research materials. China. In 2000, the Ministry of Education of China initiated the development project of online courses in the new century with the aim of promoting distance higher education in China. Initially, the purpose was to build 200 online courses and to promote sharing of quality learning resources among universities. By 2011, there were 20,000 quality courses available at the National Chinese Quality Course Online. Whilst most works in China follow copyright law, in general, educational resources authorized by the government could be used freely with no cost. There is an advancement in the field of MOOCs in China, and for example, in 2017, at 14 platforms, there have been 4,000 courses of various types. Germany, although it was involved in the Opencourseware initiatives and in European open education projects, there has been no common effort to harmonize open education and OER activities within the country. Only recently, in 2012, the national level activities started in Germany from consultations with the experts, and then 2 years ago the ministry launched a 18-month program OER Info to support a national coordination hub and 24 other model projects. While there is much interest to open educational resources at the secondary school level, but there is a lack of expertise on OER and understanding of licensing, etc. Mexico. The decree on open access law was announced in 2014 and became open science law in 2017. There are 58 repositories that are sharing over 26,000 information resources. However, there is no balance between the production of new materials and reuse and adaptation of existing OER. Mongolia, so there were several pilot projects in 2011-2013, and CC Mongolia affiliate operated between 2013 and 2018. There is a national OER program for 10 years, but well, there is no sustainable funding for it. A major initiative is the Open Network for Education. I have to go very fast through the countries because I am approaching conclusions. New Zealand, well, in 2010, the Parliament approved the New Zealand Government Open Access Licensing Framework. In 2011, the OER Foundation established the OER University, which is uses for teaching online courses based on open educational resources and provide pathways for learning to achieve formal academic degrees from accredited universities from different countries. Nigeria, the National Teachers Institute participated in TESA project coordinated by the Open University UK, and several sub-Saharan Africa countries took part in this project. Within the project, the modules for teacher education were produced and shared and used. Also, there is National Open University of Nigeria and a regional institute for training in ODL at this university. This institute is sponsored by COL. There was an effort to introduce open educational resources to encourage academics to use and produce and share OER, but there was reluctance. But upon capacity building and awareness raising activities, the number of resources shared at the OER repository of National Open University of Nigeria increased. In September 2017, the National Universities Commission of Nigeria, in collaboration with COL, drafted an OER policy for higher education, which was approved by the Ministry of Education in August 2018. But still some additional measures are needed to provide funding mechanisms for the implementation of this document. Slovenia has been quite active, and it hosted the second OER World Symposium. So in 2015, the government issued the National Strategy of Open Access. By August 2017, and after the second World OER Congress, the Slovenian government has translated its practice in implementing OER into a roadmap. And the country is implementing the large-scale initiative in open educational resources. This is opening up Slovenia. Actually, the initiative is much wider. It focuses on a digital transformation of the society. South Africa. So there is a open learning policy framework for post-school education and training. And there is no national or institutional policy which requires open licensing of educational materials produced with public funds. One example is the University of Cape Town, for example. At this university, the Vice Chancellor funded a special project on OER, and there was seed funding, and later on the Center for Innovation in Learning and Teaching at this university has attracted external funding for several OER related projects. Tanzania. The OER policy of the Open University of Tanzania was approved in 2016. Open University of Tanzania participated in two African-wide OER initiatives. One is the already mentioned TESA project, and the other one is working with Francophone, Lusophone, and Anglophone universities to produce the first set of OER for African Virtual University. Tunisia, the concept of OER is not yet widespread into Tunisia, but two universities have interest in OER, the Virtual University of Tunisia and the University of Sousse. Well, actually, I'm not going to comment much on this case, but obviously the change of mindset of academics is needed in this country. UK, so we all know that about large-scale initiatives in higher education by Joint Information System Committee. We know about UK OER program. We know about the large-scale programs of UK Open University UK, Open Learn, Create and Future Lab, and JISC Jorum UK OER repository. And unfortunately, nearly all projects were discontinued once funding ceased, which means that sustainability is an issue. Language is also an issue, but I will speak about this a bit later. Actually, in the past, I talked much about resistance or reluctance to share and the resistance to open licenses. But in all 15 countries, all experts were agreed that there is still lack of awareness on open educational resources. There is lack of strategic and policy support, and also there are some incentives and financial incentives and financial mechanisms should be developed, and also lack of understanding of copyright and intellectual property rights and concern about quality issues. Language is also an issue. You can see there some examples from New Zealand, South Africa, Tanzania, Mexico, and Tunisia, and actually only in few countries the OER are developed in native languages. Quite often it's English. It is dominating. The proposals about the measures to be taken to overcome these obstacles is raising OER awareness, dissemination of research, and at the end I will speak about proposals for the research that were made by our experts. Developing effective business models, including the use of OER, government commitment, policy support. OER policies are needed on a nationwide, state level, and also at institutional level. It is necessary to develop new technologies to search and extract data and develop data mining models. An issue is disaggregated service provision, development of a wider culture of sharing resources in the education sector, while nourishing the culture of sharing is a very important issue. And now I will show you just the research questions that are considered by the expert as those was to be explored, and they are grouped in several categories. So in the field of OER use and adoption, how are OER used, modified, and changed? How do educators use OER? Why is OER underutilized in basic education? How do students use OER and open textbooks? Improving awareness, how it can be promoted. How should educators be made aware of what strategies can instill and promote a culture of collaboration? What are the perceptions of the value proposition of OER to institutions? Educational efficiency. Does OER improve students' recruitment and or retention? What is the impact of OER on students in different universities? What examples illustrate innovative pedagogical and educational outcomes resulting from the use of OER? Here are the proposals for research to be done in the field of funding and sustainability, understanding costs and developing viable OER business models. An important issue is, or topic is the quality of OER, what actions or mechanisms should be in place, if any, to ensure the quality of locally produced OER. How can quality assessments and procedures be designed to ensure the quality of rapidly changing resources? In the field of policy development and implementation, what preconditions and factors are needed in order for OER policy to be adopted at institutional level, and how should policy be practically implemented? And last but not least, intellectual property rights, improving diversity of OER, and with exclamation sign, credentialing, and recognition of OER-based outcomes. Well, that's my personal opinion that this is one of the most important issues, because unless the OER-based outcomes cannot be recognized, I can't see how well we can further promote them. There should be some recognition of OER-based results. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Svetlana, for this very, very comprehensive overview of what is going on worldwide. It is really impressive that you have you and your team have managed to map so many countries what is ongoing, and it's fantastic to hear. And thanks for this summary. I have heard you presented this once before, and that was the reason why I invited you, because I think it is really, really important to have this comprehensive overview. And I also remember exactly what you were finishing with now about, and you said that at the Lillehammer conference where you presented it in February, that there need to be 6 R besides the 5 R we already have developed by Villiers. And the 6th R is about recognition. And I really agree with you that we have to put that forward. So thanks again for having that an important issue.
Welcome.
So thank you very much for being with us, and thanks for your presentation. The report is available on the internet, of course, and it is very, very worth it to read and have a look at. So with that, we are a bit out of time, but on the other hand, I have seen that we maybe don't have all the panelists with us so far, so that's why I wasn't so eager about the time. But now we have come to the part of the panelists. And the first part is a short round with comments on the forthcoming OER recommendations from the OER Advocacy Committee. I start with the committee, as we are the host of this webinar. And as I said, we have it in alphabetic order. Jean-Marie, are you here? I haven't seen you in the list. Okay. Anyway, we then have 3 panelists from the Advocacy Committee. So we start with James Glapa-Grossklag from the US, California. 4 minutes.
Good morning. Good morning, Ebba. Thank you. Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Great. Good morning, everybody from beautiful early morning in California. James Glapa-Grossklag, member of the ICDE OER Advisory Committee, former board president of the Open Education Consortium. I also work at an institutional level in California, in the United States, and at the state or provincial level in California. And that's really the perspective that I'll be bringing to my very brief comments. First of all, I recognize that there are many people here on the webinar today who worked many years on very specific language, sitting through very many long meetings to get the recommendation to the point it's at now. So thank you to everyone who really has done that long work. I also want to recognize that the current U.S. national government really doesn't have pay much attention to the United Nations, let alone UNESCO. So we have to recognize that context. However, in California and in the context of higher education, a recommendation coming from UNESCO certainly will carry much weight. I think it's particularly helpful that the recommendation makes reference to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, that it refers to formal and informal learning contexts, really recognizing the reality of what's going on all over the world in the changes of education. However, there is one point that very much concerns me, that the declaration is perhaps a bit not current with some of the developments arising from OER, and that specifically arises from the section 1D under building capacity that refers to leveraging openly licensed tools, platforms, and standards. In the United States, and I think elsewhere in the world, we see a real danger in the misuse of openly licensed materials, OER, for example, being used to attract learners to platforms that extract data unwittingly from the learners and subject the learners to a regime of surveillance. We have, certainly in the United States, and again, I know in Western Europe, we have many examples of commercial publishers and producers of platforms using OER, using the idea, the promise of free material, free learning materials to bring people into their platforms and then to extract their personal data, subject them to a regime of surveillance, abusing and exploiting their personal privacy rights. So that's a real danger that's happening more and more around the world. We all know what's happening with algorithms and artificial intelligence and surveillance platforms. So on the one hand, I applaud the recommendation for recognizing the realities of formal and informal learners all over the world. On the other hand, I'm quite concerned that in at least one respect, the recommendation does not go far enough to at least sound the alarm. So with that, I'll turn it back to the panel. Thank you, Ebba.
Thank you so much, James, for your reflections. Jean-Marie, you are not here? No? So then it is me, Ebba Ossiannilsson from the OER Advocacy Committee. I'm chairing this committee and I'm based in Sweden. First of all, the OER Advocacy Committee, we were the consultation phase for this recommendations, and we did that work together with the OER Chairs. So we have been quite heavily active in it. And also our work is based on the UNESCO OER recommendations and what the UNESCO is doing. So my reflections is about that. In one way, the recommendations are maybe not so far from what we have already seen about OER. And there is a big step to really go from awareness to the action. And we need to do that in a wise and clever way to let it go more mainstream. So that is one point. The second point is that I think we also need to go beyond OER as such, because we need to go more to open educational practice and open educational culture, and the whole area of openness, accessibility, inclusiveness, and all the issues which are raised with SDG 4, not at least. I think, and I'm sure that OER play a large role for how we can manage with lifelong learning, because there are huge opportunities for lifelong learners, and to also bridge the gap between formal and informal education and learning. As I said, I think we have to go beyond OER as such, because working on OER and openness is about human rights and social justice, and that should be maybe even more stressed, I think, in the 5 points from the headings of the UNESCO OER recommendations, which I showed in my slide from the beginning. Finally, maybe I think the publishers are one of the stakeholders which limit the work for working on OER, and that is that's important to tackle. So with that, I stop for my first round. After me, it is Xiangyang Zhang from China.
Thank you, Ebba, and it's good to see you, James and Rory. Long time no see, and good to have you in here to join us. And I'm Xiangyang Zhang from China, and I just work in the Open University of Jiangsu province in China, and also working in CS International University. I just work in 2 universities now. Well, I just talk something about the general impression, the recommendation, and the OER, and with some integration of China's case. Well, as you know, that the OER in China just not mentioned in the just mentioned the public, but not mentioned by the government officials. They use the umbrella informatism to cover all. So OER just discussed among the academics. But actually, we have the national repository and provincial institutional levels of OERs, but most people don't call it OER, but actually we have. So as you know, that China, several months ago, I just held a big event, the conference on the China OER conference. And that's a promotion of actually the OER in China. Well, the China used the MOOCs platform to push the OER. Well, I think it's good. Why? Because the Chinese choose the courses and the OER format to suit the local needs. So the centralized MOOCs platform, some helped by the government, and some just offered by some high-tech companies. That all work quite well, but they appeal to the public and private sectors. And I think that's mostly from the higher education. And we have also some platforms for K-12, and there's law for primary schools, but that's very few of them. Well, I think they use the MOOCs to push the OER. There's some advantages. Why? Because the OER can be pushed and at the different levels, and even can get the faculty members involved in creating the OER. Of course, we have the tradition in China team teaching. You see a group of teachers work together to prepare for the lesson plan, for the teaching material, and for the pedagogy, etc. So that's the macro level to have the OER. And very soon China will just increase a lot of courses. So that's something about this very spatial format of OER in China. Well, the other thing was saying that we have to consider into we have to consider that's the digital sharing. We have the digital divide. For example, in China, we have different cities, towns, and remote villages. China is a large one, so we have the eastern part, the western part, but we have the digital divide. So it's very simple to do something for the digital contents, but in the west part of China, there is some problems in that. So that's something about that. And well, I think that each member country, each member state must choose the mainstream format of OERs. Well, as far as I know, that's just as Jim just said, in America use Z-degree, that is open textbook. But China, there is no such thing. We have the courses. We have the open courses. Another thing I have to think that is, especially now, that's the international cooperation one, because we have different sort of political system.
Sorry to interrupt you, Xiangyang, but I think your 4 minutes is gone for this round.
Okay. So the last word. Well, last thing that is we talk the walk or walk the talk. So the action is what we really need to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So this is the first round. So we have a time for sure to come back to more discussions. But now I will give the floor to the OER chairs. And as I saw from the participants list, I don't think we have Maria with us. Is that right? Okay, so we have 3 panelists from the ICDE OER chairs, and I know that you all, sorry, not all, but Christian is coming in. I think she is on travel, so he should join by phone. Are you there, Christian? No. Okay, then we have the 2 ICDE OER chairs, Rory McGreal and Agbu Obiageli. I know it wasn't maybe right pronounced. But anyway, I know that both of you attended the UNESCO OER conference in Paris, the 27th and 28th of May. So I'm very curious to hear what was going on and what was really said about the OER recommendations and the steps forward. So the floor is yours. You have some longer time as there are just the 2 of you, but very important ones. So we start with you, Rory. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, fine. Thank you. And I will say, of course, that you are one of the pioneers with OER, so it's so good that you are here together with us to share your reflections. So,
well, thank you for the kind words. I guess my main reflection from attending the meetings in Paris is I'm very happy to see that this is going forward. And there were a number of changes made during the meeting which did not really affect the main recommendation too much, and it clarified some things for some member states. And I thought it went very well. I guess my concern is 40 countries that attended, around 40, I believe. Is that enough to get this through the Assembly? You need 100 votes. And so I guess my main takeaway is that we need to work with our national commissions in order to ensure that we get 100 votes in the Assembly. And that, to me, the point that there were only 40 countries there was problematic. And of course, Canada wasn't there because our federal government is not allowed to talk about education. And unfortunately, our provincial ministers together did not come up with a delegate or anyone who could properly represent Canada. So that's problematic. So that's my main takeaway. I would have liked to have seen a stronger emphasis on the assembly and use of OER rather than the creation, because I think that is the bigger problem. Is there are all kinds of people creating, but the numbers that are using and reusing what is readily available is a problem for us, and it's one that needs to be addressed. So I'll leave it at that. I won't take up much time, but that was my main takeaways from the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rory, for your insights, and I think you are really at the right point. For this first round, last but not at least, we have Jane from Nigeria. And you were also attending the Paris meeting.
Yeah. Hi. Good day, all. Yeah, like Rory mentioned, it's really heartwarming that OER is moving forward, really. And he also noted, and I also observed that some of the changes, the reviews, the comments that were made at the meeting did not really affect the main points of the recommendations. And it's like also he observed, because when I noticed that quite a lot of seats were empty, I think it was reported that about 50 countries attended, but the hall was really, eager for seats to be, and interestingly, some of the attended were hearing about open educational resources, some of the delegates for the first time. So, and in some of the recommendation comments, they were commenting from their own perspective, but it was really nice that a few of us that have been in OER for quite some time were on hand to make sure that the recommendations were not derailed, because the arguments were quite heated, but at the end of the day, the recommendations were in line and aligned to what it is supposed to sound like, okay? And then also we were grateful to the experts, the observers that came in to sit with us, and when given opportunities, they were able to clarify some concepts and also help us to endorse and review some of the recommendations. But by and large, the main, the content of the recommendations remained largely intact. It was not completely derailed. And also, I also observed that it served as a kind of awareness for some of the delegates that were, representing their country for the first time in that capacity. So it was a very beautiful experience, very intensive, 2 days hot meeting, but it was well worth it, and OER is moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane. Before I go for the second round and for the questions from the audience, I would like to ask you, Svetlana, on your comments from the remarks from the OER Advocacy Committee and from the OER Chairs, in case you have some comments.
Well, actually, unfortunately, this time I couldn't be in Paris and take part in the discussions or listen to the discussions. Actually, I haven't seen the draft. That's why no comments from my side.
Okay. I would like to just reflect on your comment, Rory, and it was mentioned by Carlos here as well. The few countries who participated in this meeting, just some 50 or 60, and there need to be so many more. Why were people not, or delegates not, or countries not coming? I mean, of course, they have to travel and they have to have different kind of reasons for not being there, but it is rather interesting reflection and quite alarming. I don't know. I know that we don't have the answer for that, but anyway, it is, as you are saying, alarming. I have tried to go through the questions here in the chat. There was one. It was about how to be engaged, how to engage, and how to help that more members can be active, and to encourage countries, etc. There were one practical question about the repository for OER from Luis in Mexico. Don't know if you have got that question answered or not in the chat. We had one remark from Mustafa Kamal about the definition as such, that you say that the new definition, as I showed in one of my slides, you have some problems with that because it's a bit confusing for you. I don't know if you in the panels have seen that remark, but I can read it. Kamal said that it should be like open educational resources or learning, teaching, and research material in any format and medium that resides in the public domain or has been released under an open license. And the comment is, I don't think the term copyright needs to be used, as open licenses work only on copyrighted resources this is built on. And second, why that permits no cost access, reuse, repurpose, adaptation, and redistribution should be included into the definition. Say if it is the license is CC by ND, can't that resource be adapted? So my question about that is that are those new definitions about OER and open license, are they set, so to say, or are there remarks or comments about it? The questions are for you, Rory, and for Yale, who attended the meeting.
Just a point is that this exact point was brought up at the meeting, and the lawyer for the Creative Commons, she explained that it really didn't have any effect at all on the meaning. That is the addition of the word copyright, and they were not concerned about that at all. And the other thing was that they were clear that they were quite how can I put it? They were quite happy with the idea that, the lawyer was quite adamant that the ND license was not really open. That wasn't an open education resource. That if you put in no derivatives, then it sort of is beyond the definition of what an OER is. And so that's why, again, that they weren't concerned about that particular aspect. And I was a bit concerned about this at the time and had a short discussion with her and Merkel, what's his name, Mr. Merkel, anyway, the head of the director of the Creative Commons. And it sort of clarified things for me, because yeah, there there was a bit of a problem around that, and but it was clarified by the lawyer, and I felt in a very good way. I thought Creative Commons really came to save the day at that particular point, because there was some concern about it at the meeting.
Can I also ask both of you, Rory and Jane, about those 5 headings for the recommendations? Are they still the same as those which I showed in the beginning of my slides? Or have the recommendations changed in any way?
I didn't stay till the end of it, but I don't believe they were changed. No, I think that Jane would have a better answer for that.
Do you have some comments on that, Jane?
Yeah, I didn't get the question properly.
I was asking if in my presentation I had 5 headings of the recommendations about capacity building, about the develop supportive policy, ensure inclusive and equitable access to quality OER, and nurture the creation of sustainability models, and facilitate international cooperation. My question was, have the recommended summary of the recommendation changed in any ways?
Not really. Okay. Not really, because most of the discussions were in line with the 5 major recommendations, and all the reworking and the reviews were all around that 5 subsections. Yes.
Yes, very good. So then we can continue to work on those.
Yes. Just a minor,
changes.
Tweaking here and there.
Yes.
And
so it's fine.
Yeah, we added some statements. We deleted some statements. We moved in 1 or 2 sections to another appropriate section. Mm-hmm. But everything, it's still there, 80%, 90%.
Okay, now we have some questions in the question and answers box. So I start with the first one was about the definitions, and that we have already covered. And then I have a question from, I think you all can see it if you open the question and answer. It's in the panel in the bottom, in the middle. There are participants and Q&A and the share screens and chat. So I think you can all see them. We have a question from Christina. Indeed, I would also like to know if any strategy for engagement of non-represented countries is in place, or if it has been at all discussed. And a more basic one, what were the non-represented countries? Is there a list of participating countries available? So I think that again is a question for Rory and for Jane, who attended the meeting.
I'm sure there's a list somewhere. I don't have it, but and I'm sure it's public, and that we should get a list. And it's very important that people know whether or not their country was represented there, and if not, to if they have any influence at all, to extend it and do something to ensure that it gets through. We need 100 countries to support this.
So what happened then if there are not 100 countries? Then they will just be dropped, or what happened?
Yes, if we don't get, if it goes to the assembly and there aren't 100 votes, then it will not be accepted. And actually, I believe that the UNESCO won't even put it forward unless they think they have a chance of getting the 100 votes.
Oh, but that is really alarming, as you were saying.
Yeah, and so that it is a very important issue for us who support open educational resources.
Exactly. Can we do something to support it?
Well, each country has its own problems.
Yeah.
We have a problem here, and I had the ear of our Minister of Higher Education, but in my province, and my province was leading the Council of Ministers of all the provinces, but they were voted out last month. So as democracy works, we have to start all again with the new minister and see if there's any support. And the Alberta minister then has to get support from all the other provinces. So that's the problem in Canada. Yeah. And every country, I'm sure, has equal, if not more difficult obstacles to overcome. But I hope that those that don't have difficult obstacles work on their government and try to ensure that they understand how important this is.
Yeah, yes, that's why I think this webinar is also so important and right in time, that we need to advocate, all of us who are believers, and think it will make a difference. So we have to make the voice loud and clear and in our countries. So there is one question from Hakan in Turkey. What kinds of awareness raising activities would you recommend for countries where access to learning materials, i.e. textbooks, etc., is not hard and the material are not as expensive as others like the US? So who will take that question? What about you, James?
Yes, I would. Good morning again, everybody. Ebba, I think, that's a great question, and strategy changes around the world, of course, depending on your context. My general approach is to always try to remember OER is not the thing. It's not the end goal. It's a tool to achieve larger goals around social justice, access, and equity. So what are the larger conversations and what are the larger values that everyone agrees upon, and how can OER help to support the achievement of those values or those goals?
Yeah. Yes, we have a question from Andreas. As librarian, I'm interested to receive some more information on the progress of the Global Open Librarians Goal project. Anything to share? Who knows something about that? The Global Open Librarians project. I don't see that anyone is taking that question right now, but maybe we can come back to it. And thank you for the question, Andreas, anyway. Maybe we can all search for something, and we can try to, if we find something, put it on the LinkedIn for the OER Advocacy Committee to share about that. Do we see any more questions? It is a question about UK was not at the meeting, and we had the Brexit story. I can't see directly any other questions. So I think your comment, James, is really, really important, and I myself, I also reflected on that in the first round, that we need or needs to see OER in a larger perspective about the SDG goals and the public good and social justice, and about human rights, and that OER can be facilitated for that. And also what you were stressing, Rory, that there are needs to go beyond just producing OERs, and also how to use it and reuse it, and for the language issues, for example, which was mentioned by you, Svetlana, in your presentation. I think from this report, by the way, from Svetlana, that was the reason why I invited you, that we can all learn a lot from what is going on in the different countries and how we actually can promote openness and opening up education and the use of OERs, because there are many good examples out there. I think we have some time left, so I will like to ask each of you for some final comments, and maybe more about what are the ways forward. So I will like to start with you, Svetlana. Some minutes.
So, well, probably, well, it's not an answer to a question about Global Open Library, but as far as I remember, it was an initiative of ICDE. There was feasibility study in 2019, and well, I've got a feeling that this initiative was suspended. This is an answer to one of the questions from Q&A, and also, of course, among the participants and the panelists today, well, there are many, those who contributed to our research, and they, so they provided these ideas for further research in open educational resources. But I would like to invite everyone to look at this report, and well, probably this will be a kind of inspiration for you for your further research. So that's my message.
Yeah, thank you so much. Then I will ask you, Xiangyang, reflections on ways forward.
Well, I think that let's do the OER. Well, I think that to the publisher, to the public, well, I think OER is a friend, not an enemy. So I just remember to discuss with Rory in 1917 in Toronto. You see, if you have something open to the public, you will be accepted by the public. And I think the people, especially the modern world, likes to have more sense. So the OER give them just more knowledge. If you have the quality OER, then you have all, I think. So that's my summary. So well, I think that is OER, as the ambassador of OER, our existence is the advocacy of OER, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Xiangyang. And you, James?
Yes, well, I'd like to finish with 3 points. First of all, thank you so much to everyone like Rory and Jane who took the time and have taken the time over the years to participate in the discussions and negotiations around the recommendation. We owe you a lot. Thank you. Secondly, I would like to repeat my concern about the way in which OER and open data can be used to attract people to platforms that exploit our personal privacy and rob us of our human autonomy. I think that's an issue that we all have to tackle before it's too late. And then finally, the final clause of the recommendation around sustainability encourages the community to engage in monitoring and documenting activities around the progress of OER. So that may be an opportunity for ICDE or the Open Education Consortium, so the big global organizations, to collaborate and to organize some central effort to monitor and document the activities.
Thank you, James. Jane, some final comments from you?
Okay. Yes, I want to take the clue from the observations from the Paris meeting, specifically from the remarks of Miss Audrey, the Assistant Director General for Education, UNESCO, because in her opening speech, she noted that yes, OER helps us to uphold the prayers for the Sustainable Development Goals. And because of the issues of education, a lot of people still need education. A lot are still without education. So, and to achieve this, she noted that education must first transform itself. And she told us that OER is actually not a magic wand, but it can have a transformative impact on education. So, and she also noted that she's looking at she's kind of recommending 5 different dimensions which we can take advantage of OER. First is to develop national policies. And she also told us that she's happy that UNESCO and Commonwealth of Learning and others have published national policy guidelines to open educational resources for countries that want to develop their national policies. Then second, we need to prioritize investment in teachers. Third, we need to create partnership platform for sharing knowledge for best practices. And the fourth is the need to develop appropriate tools and methodologies to monitor evidence of OER on learning outcome. And finally, the fifth recommendation from her was to harness the power of digitalization and digital revolution, including artificial intelligence for open educational resources. So this I found very impactful, and that's why I want to share it with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane. And Rory, I would like to ask you.
Yes. The one major concern that I have that wasn't put forward there and hasn't been discussed here is the OER for the school system, for the kindergarten to grade 12 level. And in Canada, we have 0 initiatives in that regard. We just have a few zealot teachers doing their own thing who are using a few OER. But it's remarkable how worldwide very little is being done at the school level, except the sole exception that I have found is in the United States, where now I believe there's 26 or more states that are implementing open education resource initiatives at the school level. And I think that we need to pay more attention to this and find ways of encouraging school boards and governments to support them, because I believe there are massive savings financially for governments, and massive quality improvements are possible if we get away from the old textbook from big international corporations model that we've been using up to now.
Thank you. Just to mention the school sector in my country, in Sweden, I think just to comment on your what you were saying. My experience is that the school sector, K-12, are much more far ahead than the rest of the educational system. Schools are really far ahead with OERs, but it differs from country to country. So with that, I think we have had a really interesting discussion here during this webinar, and I think it was right in time, as the recommendations have been discussed at this UNESCO meeting, and there are still some time until they will be hopefully agreed and have further spread out. So really, we have to hope, and we all have to hope that there are more countries working on that. And also, I would like to thank you all very much for being here together with us this Friday afternoon in Europe time. It has been a great honor to work together with you to organize this webinar, and your commitment to be active here. And not at least Rory McGreal, who are really one of the pioneers and worked so hard, as James was saying as well, in this area, been advocating for a long time around the world in the area, and also you, Jane, and also my colleagues in the OER Advocacy Committee. And my final words will be that all of us who believe and think it would make a difference with opening up education, where OER is very important, we still need to advocate about it and do our best, and I know that we are doing that. And in every time and any time and everywhere, we have to advocate about it at all kind of levels. And maybe my final words on my reflections will be that there are, talking about those headings from the UNESCO OER recommendations, they are very large and very big and can include a lot of things. I think it is very important that we all work on different kind of levels, both at the nano level with individuals, at the micro level with the courses, etc., such, at the meso level within an institution, and macro level with a national level and also globally. So there are so many different both stakeholders, but also all these kind of levels, and they need to be tackled, and they need also to work together. So together, all of us can make a difference. So with that, I will thank you so much for being together with us, and thank you all for who have registered and taken part in this webinar. I hope you will continue to work together with us. And as I said, we have a LinkedIn profile where we used to discuss a lot of things and taking up interesting reports or projects or whatever. So please follow us. And finally, I would like to thank ICDE for working together with us when we came up with this idea to have the webinar, and for all the hard work Julie has done together with us, setting up the webinar and information and spreading the word in social media, etc. By the way, social media is a good way to spread the word, so we all have to advocate also there. So thank you so much, Julie, and thank you so much, ICDE, for hosting this webinar. There will be a follow-up. You will all get the recordings. We will also publish a blog post about this webinar and the outcomes of it. So with that, I will say goodbye to all of you, and we keep in touch, and you know where we are and we know where you are. So keep in touch, and have a very nice weekend and a nice summer. Goodbye, and see you soon again.